to the public, carrying babies on podiums, and allowing people into State House, thousands of people into State House. Do you agree that, yes, the problem with too much familiarization with the president, familiarity rather, with the president, could, in a way, lead up to such complications?
Yes, and thank you for having me this morning. You know, there's a very thin line between when you want to manage the PR and when the security experts need to provide for you the security. You know, the presidential security in this country is state managed. So many are times that the security dictates that you do not even consult the president himself on how to protect him. But we've seen a trend where the presidency wants to actually relax that, because in the past, remember even during Kibaki, you could barely, go near him, even when he's walking at crowds. Kibaki would not have an opportunity to come and shake your hands because the distance is maintained by the security and it's commanded. But the former president and current president, who are rather younger people, would want to, create a, what I would call a perception. They are closer to the people, shaking hands and all that. And that will definitely come at an expense of security, because how do you manage someone who have drawn themselves so nearer to the crowd? But what I've seen in the recent past, throwing of shoes, those guys who have been trying to learn, it definitely, indicates that there is a lapse. Those particular changes that they did were very necessary. And that lapse is seen by the fact that you managed to reach the presidency. You know what that means? You can't really, come from the buffer zone where it's created, because they have to, detect, some of these things even before they happen. Security dictates that once you detect it, you have to you have to do something called deter. And if you don't delay first, and then deter it. Okay. So what I have seen is that a complete void. That is definitely putting the life of the president at risk. All right.
Allow me to engage with Felicity for a bit. Felicity, you must agree that over the last 13 years, since President Uhuru Kenyatta, all right, I'm told we need to sort out something FOMBA, that since 2013, we've seen a lot change in the presidency. We had come from a place where we had President Jomo Kenyatta, President Moi, who was seen as larger than life, President Kibaki, who inherited most of that. But there was this attempt to demystify the presidency, make it more approachable. We've seen that now with the second president, and at a different level. And you must agree that that comes at a risk.
Of course, had that man been armed yesterday, we'll be talking about a very different story today. And that is why, Fred, I agree with you that we have been populist to an extent that we are relaxing state security. But again, we must take responsibility of our respective roles. The president is a politician and he's the leader of Kenyans. He's come out as someone who is really in touch with the people, and people love him. So they want to get closer to him. He came in as a hustler, so when people see the president, they feel like this is their brother, this is their friend, this is someone they can easily get in touch with. But, we must also remember that his security is so much attached to state security. And therefore, the protocols that are established that someone should go through to get to the president should be intact and should be enforced by those ones who are given those responsibilities. And that's why I do not know if what was done last night was enough so that Kenyans are guaranteed that the president is secure. Because in as much as people love the president, it will create an opportunity that anyone else can come and have other intentions. Remember, in the 1960s, Dr. Martin Luther King was a very popular civil rights activist in the US. And all black people seemed to love him. But one day a woman came closer to him and asked him, "Are you Dr. Martin Luther King?" He said yes, and then she stabbed him. So it is that risky, and I think that is why we need to open our eyes and ensure that those ones who are given responsibility to guide the president or play different roles do it to the best level possible.
15 months to the next election, do you think the president would change his style right now?
It's not about the president. The president is doing his job. It's about those people who are given the duty of protecting the president. They must organize themselves around that. Because what happens is that when people are so much involved in politics, some of these people get excited with their speeches. So that instead of focusing on their jobs, they start looking at the politicians and listening to their speeches and enjoying. By the time they relaxed, they get relaxed, then those other fellows, or those ones who think they are getting an opportunity to get closer to the president and tell the president what they want, will think they have an opportunity. Yes. But we need to also live in a country whereby everybody needs to know that he can succeed or be able to do his own things without necessarily getting to the president.
All right. Yet the